Today, we're really jumping into the deep end. We're going headfirst into one of the biggest, maybe most talked about late-night TV controversies of 2025.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you've almost certainly seen the headlines flying around,
Yeah.
right? Or caught the debates online. Things like Jimmy Kimmel fired, Kimmel Show canceled, ABC pulls the plug.
It's been everywhere. Absolutely deafening, like you said.
Exactly.
Mhm.
But, if you peel back that sort of sensational layer, what you find is, well, it's a high-stakes situation that's way more complex and honestly kind of troubling than those headlines suggest. We're talking about something where the reality is just far more complicated than a simple firing. It really reveals some hidden dynamics, I guess,
Yeah.
shaping our media, our politics, maybe even free speech itself.
It absolutely does. This isn't really just about one TV host or, one celebrity. It's more like a critical lens looking into the mechanics of power in today's media world.
A critical lens,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's a case study, really. Stark.
Yeah.
Showing how corporate interests, political pressure, they can silently redraw the lines for free expression, especially on broadcast TV.
Right.
What we're seeing here, it could be a kind of blueprint for how information flows, or maybe more importantly, how it gets stopped. And it makes you ask, what's really at stake here for all of us? I mean, beyond just one show being off the air.
That's a really powerful way to put it, what's truly at stake. So, okay, let's ground this to really get a handle on how fast this all blew up. What was the immediate spark? What actually ignited this whole thing?
Yeah, the starting point.
Well, to understand the whirlwind, we have to begin with a really tragic, shocking event that kind of set the stage. The recent assassination of Charlie Kirk, the prominent conservative activist, founder of Turning Point USA.
A huge event. Shockwaves everywhere.
Absolutely. That tragedy sent these profound ripples through the political world. It sparked immediate outrage, fierce debate. It just became this incredibly heated national conversation almost instantly. Very volatile. And it was right into that atmosphere that Jimmy Kimmel stepped. On his Monday night show, Jimmy Kimmel Live, he addressed Kirk's death in the monologue. Now, this is key. We don't have the exact transcript of what he said, that lack of clarity. It's actually pretty significant here.
Right, that's important.
But multiple reliable sources reported pretty quickly that his comments, they focused on the motives behind the killing. And they were almost immediately seen as controversial, not just by conservatives, but crucially, by regulatory officials too.
And that's where the speed, the escalation becomes really striking by Tuesday, just one day later.
One day.
Yeah, FCC Chairman Brendan Carr had already put out statements about Kimmel's monologue. Now, you might just think, okay, an official statement. But you really can't overstate the significance of this.
Why is that?
Because the FCC, they regulate broadcast television, so a statement, or even what looks like a threat from the chairman, it carries immense weight for networks like ABC and all their local affiliate stations across the country.
Wow.
This isn't just some politician tweeting. It's a clear regulatory signal. And broadcast networks, they pay very close attention to those signals. It hits their licenses, their operations, their bottom line.
Wow. So the FCC chair weighs in that fast. That really does underscore the immediate intense pressure ABC must have felt. Not just a memo, like you said, but a very public, very powerful signal.
Exactly.
And the consequences, well, they were swift
Yeah.
and severe. By Wednesday, so just 2 days after the monologue aired, ABC made this absolutely stunning announcement. Jimmy Kimmel Live would be preempted indefinitely.
Indefinitely. That's the key word.
Right. Not a temporary break, not a couple of weeks off. It just means no return date, no timeline, just off the air. For who knows how long. The show just vanished from the schedule.
It's gone.
But, that immediate heat from the SEC wasn't the only thing pushing this. There was another really critical player working more behind the scenes. And their influence, well, once you connect the dots, it reveals even more about why this decision might have happened.
Who was that?
Nexstar Media Group. According to reporting from several outlets, Nexstar, and they own a lot of ABC affiliate stations nationwide, they played a crucial role in ABC's decision.
It's a crucial role, yeah. They didn't stay quiet either.
No, they even issued a public statement. Said Kimmel's remarks were offensive and insensitive at a critical time in our national political discourse. Pretty direct words, wouldn't you say?
Very direct. And this is where we really need to connect some important dots. Because what makes Nexstar's involvement, as some reports called it, particularly noteworthy, is the bigger picture they're operating in.
Okay, what's the context?
Well, the company is currently trying to get approval for a major merger, and they're actively lobbying the Trump administration's FCC to end local ownership rules. Basically, rules that limit how many stations they can own. They want to consolidate more.
Ah, I see. So they need something from the FCC.
Exactly. So many industry observers look at this timing. You have a major media company needing regulatory approval from the current administration, and then they take this very strong, very public stance against a late-night host whose comments touched on the political landscape. Well, it looks like more than just a coincidence to a lot of people.
It certainly raises eyebrows.
It points towards potential corporate pressure influencing content decisions, and the stakes are incredibly high for both ABC and for Nexstar itself. It really makes you question how much outside influence is, well, acceptable in these situations.
That timing definitely makes you wonder about leverage. But couldn't you also argue maybe that Nexstar just had a genuine concern? That they independently felt the comments were inappropriate, separate from any merger stuff? How do we kind of balance those possibilities?
That's a really fair point, and it gets to the heart of why these things are so tricky to untangle. It's entirely possible, sure, that some executives at Nexstar genuinely found the comments offensive or insensitive. However, the way they reacted, the public statement, the forcefulness of it, combined with their active regulatory agenda, it just makes it impossible to completely ignore the potential for, let's say, strategic motivation.
Right.
In the world of big corporate deals, actions often serve more than one purpose. Making a show of aligning with the current administration's perceived views, especially when you need significant regulatory favors from that administration's FCC, well, that sends a powerful signal, regardless of any personal feelings involved. It's really about understanding the leverage points.
Understanding those leverage points, absolutely. Yeah. And as you can probably guess, the public reaction, the political fallout, it was like throwing fuel on a fire. Immediate.
Yeah.
Incredibly polarized. Just unavoidable, really.
The usual pattern these days.
You had Hollywood figures, politicians, media folks weighing in from everywhere. Like California Governor Gavin Newsom tweeted something like, "These aren't coincidences, it's coordinated, and it's dangerous." He basically accused the GOP of censoring in real time.
Strong words.
Yeah, and he wasn't alone. Ben Stiller, Chris Hayes, lots of other celebrities jumped in criticizing ABC's decision. They framed it very clearly as, corporate censorship driven by political pressure.
That was definitely one side of it.
Definitely. But now it's really crucial for us doing this deep dive to stay neutral here and show all sides. So while those criticisms were really loud, it's important to say that others strongly defended ABC's decision. They argued that Kimmel's comments were inappropriate, given how sensitive and tragic the situation around Charlie Kirk's death was, and that ABC was perfectly justified in acting to protect its brand, its audience.
So you had both sides digging in quickly.
Immediately.
And if you connect that to the bigger picture, it really highlights that powerful echo chamber effect we see so often now. A comment like Kimmel's, it doesn't just spark debate anymore. It gets instantly amplified and spun across political lines, like at lightning speed. Each side forms its narrative, defends it fiercely, often within minutes. The actual nuance of what was said, it often gets totally lost in that political social media storm that follows. It becomes less about the comment itself and more about whose side you're on in the culture war.
That's a really sharp point about how fast those narratives harden. Makes you wonder if there's any room left for actual dialogue sometimes.
And while this brings us right to the big question, the one everyone's been asking, was Jimmy Kimmel actually fired? Because the headlines sure made it sound that way.
Yeah, fired in all caps.
Exactly. But the reality, like we touched on, is no. Not technically, anyway. Sources close to the situation told CNBC he hasn't been fired. And apparently, Disney execs plan to talk with Kimmel about what he should say when he comes back on air.
When?
And that's the absolute key word there, isn't it? When, not if. That distinction seems pretty critical.
It is. But what's really striking here, and maybe deeply concerning, is what this whole thing reveals about how fast corporate media can, well, buckle under political and regulatory pressure.
How so? Think about this. Kimmel was apparently all set to address his comments on his Wednesday night show. He would have had the chance to speak directly to his audience, to clarify, maybe even apologize, right there on air.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize he was planning to address it that night.
Exactly. But instead of letting that happen, letting that public discourse play out, ABC just pulled the plug, pulled the whole show. And that sets a dangerous precedent for free expression in media. It doesn't matter if you agree with Kimmel's politics or not.
Right.
It's the act of silencing itself, the mechanism of just preventing speech, stopping the conversation. That's what really raises the alarm, much more maybe than the specific words he used in the first place.
It's hard to ignore that detail, him being ready to speak. That really does shift the perspectives, doesn't it? And this whole incident, of course, it isn't happening in some kind of vacuum. We need to put it in the wider context of late-night TV, which is already facing, significant pressure.
Definitely not happening in isolation.
I mean, just this summer, CBS announced that Stephen Colbert's Late Show is ending its run after the 2025-26 season. They cited financial challenges. So, yeah, it's a tough time for traditional late night.
Big changes happening there.
The headwinds hitting traditional late night are coming from all directions, really. You've got streaming services carving up the audience, viewing habits changing completely, and, yeah, the deep political polarization we see everywhere. When hosts take strong political stands, they risk alienating parts of their audience.
That's always been a factor, though, to some extent.
Right, and this feels important. Hosts taking political stances, that's been part of late night for decades in different ways. So what's actually different now?
That is precisely the crucial question. What's different isn't just that hosts have opinions, it's the unprecedented level of corporate and regulatory pressure being applied, and the sheer speed with which it can lead to direct action, like an indefinite suspension.
The speed and the directness.
Yeah, and this connects to those broader worries about media consolidation. When just a few massive companies control huge chunks of the media landscape, the impact of political pressure on news, on entertainment, it can have these outsized effects.
Right, because fewer decision makers control more outlets.
Exactly. A decision made by just a few executives, maybe under intense outside pressure, can affect millions of viewers, and it sets this chilling precedent for what kind of speech is okay, or maybe more accurately, what kind isn't okay, within that increasingly concentrated media world.
So given all these layers, the corporate pressure, the regulatory signals, the political climate, where does this leave Jimmy Kimmel and his show? The honest answer seems to be, well, nobody really knows for sure what happens next.
A lot of uncertainty.
Definitely. Disney's talking, sure, but that pressure from Nexstar, from the FCC, it hasn't just vanished.
Yeah.
And Kimmel himself, he's been mostly silent since this all blew up, which just adds to the ambiguity.
Silence speaks volumes sometimes.
It does. We can probably outline a few potential outcomes, though. And each one has pretty big implications. First, maybe Kimmel comes back relatively soon, makes some kind of public statement, an apology, a clarification, something.
Okay, scenario one.
Second, maybe the show returns, but with, new rules. Tighter network oversight, a kind of editorial leash, maybe.
Restrictions.
Third, maybe this just drags on, becomes a prolonged standoff that eventually just leads to cancellation. The show quietly fades away.
A slow fizzle.
And finally, fourth, there's always the chance Kimmel just leaves ABC altogether,
Yeah.
moves to another platform, maybe streaming, somewhere less tied to traditional network or regulatory pressures.
The streaming option.
Each one of those scenarios, though, has really different implications.
Absolutely. Each path tells us something different, not just about the future of late-night TV, but more broadly, about media freedom itself.
Yeah.
How this plays out, it's going to signal a lot about the shifting boundaries of acceptable speech in the mainstream media, about the real reach of corporate influence and the actual cost of navigating this supercharged political media environment we're in. It's like a barometer, really, for where things are headed.
Ultimately, yeah, this deep dive, it's about much more than just Jimmy Kimmel or one specific show. It's a really powerful example of how quickly media companies can react or maybe overreact to political pressure. It's about how something people call regulatory capture might work in the real world, where industries maybe get too cozy with the agencies meant to regulate them, potentially bending the rules. And it's about what actually happens to free expression when powerful corporate interests line up with political power.
A convergence of pressures.
Exactly. And regardless of how you personally feel about Kimmel's comments or his politics, the precedent being set here, that should probably concern everyone. This isn't really about whether you agreed with what he said. It's about the mechanism of silencing.
Right, the process itself.
In a healthy media environment, you'd hope controversial speech gets met with more speech, right? With criticism, with debate, out in the open. Not with just indefinite suspension and disappearance. Bad opinions, bad takes, they should be challenged, fact-checked, debated. They shouldn't just be vanished by some corporate decision.
So the question becomes, in this world we're in, with information overload, with massive media consolidation, how do we make sure that controversial speech is met with more speech, with criticism, with actual debate, instead of just being, disappeared by corporate decree?
Yeah.
What does this specific incident really tell us about the future of diverse viewpoints in our public conversation, and about the very idea of being able to challenge the status quo within mainstream media? It's definitely something worth thinking about long after you finish listening today.